QSL, confirm K4QI and WA3QWA. Thank you for early check-in here. And we were just getting a compliment mark from Hilton how well how well your talk group is doing with DMR. Found that my transmissions are much more copyable in audio than here. Are there any other? I'm using a DV stick now. Any other early check-ins? AA4FL. K4QI, Andrew, are you getting ready to round, or I'm sorry, are you doing the emergency room today over? I am rounding today, and I'm trying to look at my schedule for next Saturday, but in the meantime, I'd also like to find out about that DMR net. And next week, I'm at National Guard, so you will not hear from me at all. And then the following weekend, I'll be rounding again, so. But that's the weekend of March 13th is the QSO Today conference, so that might bump some of the folks off. But anyway, back to you, Jay. This is People QI. Very fine. So let me close down Hilton's. I've got Hilton's net running on YouTube, and the audio's confusing me because it's all coming through the headphones here. Understood about not being there next weekend and getting ready to round. So I've got you logged in, and uh, uh, what's your availability going to be if I call on you during the next hour there in the AA4 home? I will be in and out of the room. I'm going to work on a few notes right now, so I'll probably be around for the beginning unless I get called out for something. Somebody was just on the IARP. Let's see who that was. If that was Mark again. Mark, are you listening to the to your talk group?
For FLPY2BBQ, just to let you know that I have already started the YouTube streaming. Okay, for FLPY2BBQ.
Very fine, PY2BBQ. Yeah, I actually had the YouTube video running, so I mean, I've got all. It was working beautifully. I've got all the audio coming in through my headphones here from the DV sticks, since I'm not using a radio. So doing everything at all one time, I temporarily shut it off. But I'll watch the recording later. I won't be able to look at the chat because of that. So if there's any way you can monitor the questions for the chat on that, that would be wonderful. We had N4TSC, by the way, Mark, WA3TWA. N4TSC came up on your top group. AA4FL back to Hilton, BY2BBQ.
Okay, Jay. Yes, I can. I can handle. I can be aware of the chat, and then I'll transmit to the net any questions of comments every time you ask me. Okay.
Thank you. And I see we have a few others that are now at least logged into to the NetLogger. Um, do we have K3FZT, or are you here on the coordinate array now for early check-in? Go ahead. Okay, Angie, I'm going to send you the link to the YouTube in just a second here. I'm going to post that on the NetLogger AIM button so that anyone else that needs it can get it to AA4FL.
WA1EXA?
WA1EXA, thank you for checking in. Sorry, just multitasking here. So a lot going on all at one time. AA4FL got you. We'll get you checked in here. Anyone else? AA4FL for early check-in.
Hi, good morning. KB4I. Kilo 2 Delta Echo Delta.
QSL. The Kilo 2, could you just repeat your call one more time?
This is Kilo 2 Delta Echo Delta. Steve in New York. Over.
QSL Steve, thank you very much. Any other early check-ins? This is AA4FL from the Medical Image Radio Council, BVNet.
WW9F.
Okay, I have WW9F on KD4IZ, WA1EXA, K2 Delta Echo Delta. Now there was one person that had noise but did not get the call sign. So if there's someone else, go ahead and repeat your call. Your check-in.
WJ8B.
JP7 FFL from Japan. Okay, QSL, WJ8B, and JP7 JSO. Thank you very much for checking in for the first time. Good evening to you. I realize it's late there. I'm not sure if it's 11 in the evening or 12 in the midnight. I know it's nice of you to step and check in. This is AA4FL. I'm not sure Etsu will be here today, but Etsu was spoke with us the other day on one of our local activities. Nice to have you on, but we'll give you a chance to introduce yourself. Wait one. Okay, we're going to do a round table so everybody can participate. We're going to let's finish up with early check-ins here, and that will start in about 2 minutes. Any additional early check-ins? Make your call. This is AA4FL.
Mike 7 Romeo Juliet Bravo, listening only.
Go. K3F ZT Steve in Mount Airy, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
WX5 OU Whiskey X-Ray 5 Oscar uniform, check in only. Okay, QSL, both John and Lord, we M7 RJB and WX50 check-in purposes only. Of course, you're welcome to participate and ask questions as well. This is AA4 South on the top of the hour for the QuadNet array. So wait one here, and we'll start from that. Okay, AA4FL, thank you everybody for joining us today. Good day. I know it's evening for some, morning for others. Welcome to the Marco DVNet. We already have stations checked in from the United States, from Japan, and from Brazil, and we'll probably have a few more countries before the net is over. This is AA4FLJ. I'll be your net control for this session. The purpose of the Marco Digital VoiceNet is to provide a discussion forum for current medical events and issues, and will act as the moderator here for a topic presenter. So if you have something you'd like to present, make your call to net control. Wait one. The net is open to all amateurs, and not just Marco members. However, if you'd like to just listen and not be involved in the roundtable, that will be fine. So far, I have two check-ins that have said that, and if you change your mind, just let me know, and we will give you a chance to make a presentation or ask your questions. But everyone is welcome. Wait one. We have the net up on, by the way, on NetLogger, and so far I have 14 stations checked in, and we meet every Saturday at 1500 here on the QuadNet array, and we do appreciate you being involved, but if you want to bring up NetLogger, you certainly can monitor the check-ins as well as use the AIM window. We have a live stream going on, and if you use the NetLogger window, you'll have the link there to the live stream on YouTube. Hilton PY2BBQ is running the live stream, and he will be monitoring the chat feature on YouTube and making sure to alert us of any need for answer any questions. So there may be stations participating in a way where they're actually not coming through the net directly. Wait one. This gives us the opportunity to have stations that are not hams be monitoring on YouTube and still ask questions through Hilton, even though they can't transmit. So just expanding our communication effort to to make this available worldwide. Of course, no QSB, QRM here on the Quadnet array. Much different than in HFNet. So, that being said, are there any stations with emergency priority traffic for the net? Please call Net Control over AA40. Are there any mobile stations or stations that won't be able to participate in the net but have important comments or announcements? Please call now. Okay, neither heard. Before we proceed, for those of you who have not participated previously, just a few housekeeping items for the net. If you're using a radio, enable the busy channel lockout feature of the transceiver if you have one, so we can prevent doubling with other stations, and avoid tailgating whenever using the quad network. Key up, leave 2 to 3 second gap before speaking. Allow the link repeaters and hotspots to synchronize with the reflector and other repeaters in the network. Wait one. Check-in using voice, and I'll acknowledge check-ins. If you're not acknowledged, please try again when check-ins are called, and again, be aware of that tailgating issue. Give it a little time before transmissions. Now, I'm asking for any check-ins that would like to do so. Make your call to AA40 at this time. Go ahead.
N5 RTF.
Okay. This is AA4FL, QSL. We confirm N5 RTF. Are there any other additional check-ins at this time for the Medical Image Radio Council DVNet? Of course, you don't have to be a member of the Medical Image Radio Council to participate. Direct your call to AA4FL. Okay. Before we start roundtable discussion, we do have a few new check-ins here. So I'd like to give you a chance. Thank you very much, Jay. This is JP7 FSO, not JSO. Hi, everybody. My name is Shen. This is the first time log on Marco. So, thank you very much, Jay. So, this is a great opportunity for me. Thank you very much. Back to you, Jay. Thank you, Shinya. I actually I acknowledge that. No, we're glad to have you here, and glad that the opportunity to participate works well for you. It's one of the main reasons for us having a DVNet here on the digital nodes, because our HFNet, although excellent in its content and its presentation, being on 20 meters doesn't afford the opportunity for our members to participate. We value all our members, so look for more of this in the future. Is WA3QWA on frequency now here on the net? Would you like to, Mark, tell Shinya about the other talk group on DMR? Over. Okay. I understand Mark was going to be in and out. So Shinya, WA3QWA, you probably saw the email in the Google group. I believe we talked about the International Association Radio Physicians Network having a talk group. So if you have access to DMR, that is another option. I'm sure that we'll put a net on there in the future. I know those of you that come in on T-Star, that's refusion limits you. But do you happen, Shinya, do you happen to have access to DMR as well? AA4, go ahead.
Roger that. Actually, it's a little difficult to access using a DMR from Japan. So, yeah, I try to using a or fusion things, but actually it's a little difficult to using a DMR. Back to you, Jay.
Okay, well, thank you for the feedback. That's the beauty of the QuadNet array, and we appreciate the administrators volunteering to assist us in giving us the time here for the net, since we have members all over the world, and we have members using different digital modes. And being that we translate everything here in the QuadNet array and can all talk to each other, it's a very important feature for us. MarkNet is DMR only, and he has quite a following in India. So that's another option for those of you that have DMR, and if you need that information, you can email me personally, or we'll find a net time in the future where we can have a meeting there and meet up with others that haven't participated in the QuadNet array yet. There's a lot of hams all over the world that are not Marco members. Wait one. There are a lot of physicians all over the world that are hams that are not Marco members. We haven't had that international reach because we have been running our nets on HF, and its participation is problematic, difficult. So this expands our usefulness to our members, and of course, we also do the traditional radio on the air directly without the use of internet linking. So we do the best of all worlds, and keeps us technically challenged as well. It's important for many reasons to participate in the TV nets. Wait one. Hey, K3FZT, would you like to introduce yourself at this time? Make your call, AA4FL.
AA4FL and the net. This is K3FZT, Steve, in the northwest section of Philadelphia. Well, thank you, Jay, and thanks for our email correspondence, which got me to join up. I was first licensed in 1964 as a novice in tech, and operated a lot of 6-meter AM phones during my teenage years. Discovered girls in college and medical school, and pretty much put ham radio aside the last 20 years or so. Now local repeaters. Upgraded to general. I'm studying for my expert at the moment. I was a emergency physician for 43 years. I was one of the first trained in the specialty, and I'm proud to say I trained many emergency physicians who practice, who lead at every level up to and including the National Academy of Medicine. I retired from clinical practice 3 years ago. Wait one. Thank you. And decided it was time to get back on the air. So that's what I've been doing. I had a Annington HT, and I have a Yaesu FT991A. I don't yet have an HF antenna up. I'm waiting for the weather to get better up here in Philly before I put up a 45-foot pole for a Pico on a inverted V. That's enough about me. Thanks so much for this opportunity. I really have been learning digital radio, but I have a lot of facility with digital modes in general because I've done a lot of computer engineering over the years too, and network engineering. So back to you in the group. This is K3FZT.
Thank you much, Steve. K3FZT, AA4FL. Thank you for the nice presentation, getting to know you. There's a number of our members in Pennsylvania, not everyone in Philly. N3IM, I believe, is an emergency room physician, emergency medicine. He is more in the State College area. He's very active. I thought Keith would be on today. So hopefully you'll be able to make some local connections and find a nice home in many different ways here. And welcome back to amateur radio. And so today we're taking a little bit different tack. Usually we're pretty heavy on the COVID front. I'm going to go ahead and start the rounds. But let's talk technical today too, in terms of your digital radio equipment, and explain how you're getting on and how you might be able to reflect on this to help other Marco members or encourage other Marco members to participate. I'm going to start with PY2 BBQ. Go ahead, Hilton.
Okay. Hello everybody, this is Hilton, Papa Yankee 2 Bravo Bravo Quebec from São Paulo, Brazil, and I'm very happy to see that every week we have more and more new participants in the DVNet of Marco. And for those who don't know me, I'm a general surgeon in São Paulo, Brazil, and I am amateur radio operator since I was 16 years old. This is for 42 years, and I've been also QRT for a long time, and decided to come back to radio about 2 years ago, when I was working at the São Paulo State Civilian Defense as a military doctor. And they decided to set up an amateur radio station. That what we did actually was to form a whole amateur radio emergency net in São Paulo State that is working fine, and we have hundreds of hams participating so far. Let me have no, don't need to break right now, we still have time. We used to bring some news about the COVID situation in each country, and here in Brazil the things are getting worse than it was last week. We had the second wave. It was decreasing, but we had the carnival, although it was officially suspended. There were some reunions and some parties, and what we saw 1 and 2 weeks after that was an increase of the number of COVID-19 patients, increase of hospital occupation, especially intensive care units, and the increase of deaths. That was really a shame, because it could have been avoided. Give a small break. Okay, this is PY2BBQ and Marco DVNet. And we have started the vaccination in Brazil about 1 month ago. So far we had about 6.5 million people who had received at least the first vaccine doses. It started with the healthcare personnel. Now the older people is receiving. For some states it started as 60 years old and up. In other states like São Paulo, it's still 80 years old and up. I had already have my second doses this last week and experienced some side effects, some fever and headaches. It took about 1 day, and now I'm perfectly fine. We set up this YouTube transmission. It seems to be working fine, and I see here, I can see who is in the chat. I have some, let me find it. Okay, here I am. From Half Brimham, hello. KG4CSQ is here. Andrew, it works. Stephen, this is great to see. Kate Evans, and November 3, India Mike is here. Flying Frog, all set. Keith Adams, November 5, RTF. Checking in but does not show up on NetLogger. Hey, I think he's in NetLogger right now. Fly Frog, Jax, November D4IZ is there. Keith Adams, Hilton's audio is fantastic, thank you. So we in the near future we would like to see non-hams participating of this chat, and we could send questions and comments to be discussed by the healthcare hams in the net. Thank you. I've spoken too much. Let me send back to JA4FL PY2BBQ.
PY2BBQ, thank you for the excellent presentation, and thank you for running the YouTube live stream. I see Keith is on the live stream from what you report, N3IM. Welcome, Keith, and probably heard the discussion we were having with Steve K3 FCT, who's in Philly, retired emergency room physician. So hopefully the two of you connect by email using QRZ. And if you can let Steve know any other Marco members in Pennsylvania. You guys are around the corner from each other. Having been that I've been to Philadelphia plenty of times, and I've been to Penn State visiting as well. Okay, are there any additional check-ins, late check-ins? Go ahead and make your call at this time to Net Control. This is AA4FL.
Victor Echo 7, Bravo Sierra Papa.
QSL Richard, Victor Echo 7, Bravo Sierra Papa. Thank you for joining us again this morning. We're going to pick up on our roundtable here of discussion. So I hope you were here to hear Hilton's excellent discussion and description of what's going on. I'm not sure if Andrew K4QY is available, because I know, Andrew, you said that you were rounding and you're actually at work today in the hospital. But if you're in between rounding and would like to go ahead and say hello and make a presentation, go ahead at this time, AA4FL.
Thank you, Jay. This is K4QY. Andy here. I'm currently rounding in our little hospital here in St. Mary's, Georgia. I actually live in Florida, right across the state line on Amelia Island, where the weather is absolutely beautiful today. Our beaches are going to be packed. I know it for sure, because they were all driving in last night. from a healthcare perspective, I have seen very few COVID patients now coming to the hospital. Like currently, I believe I have 4 inpatients, but that's very low compared to usual in the last year. But I am seeing very sick patients for everything else. Our patients seem to be sicker now than they were a year ago. On the immunization front, I'm a bit more familiar in Florida because that's where I live. We've been immunizing healthcare workers and patients that are 65 and older. And it looks like next week we're going to start immunizing police and teachers. So it's pretty exciting. There does not seem to be a lack of resources, at least in my area, in regards to getting vaccinations. Break. On a more personal front, I also got my start in ham radio when I was around age 11 in the late 70s. Was active for a few years and then into college a little bit and then stopped in the last year, just started up again, and everything's very, very new to me. I'm happy to be on this. I do have an HF rig and my DMR will be in next week. And I'm learning. I'm trying to do some ST8, and I'm going to get onto some voice soon. My son is also 11 and just got his ham radio license as I upgraded to extra. And I'm going to get him doing some POTA, so that's kind of exciting. Let's see, finally, last week was interesting for me because there was a check-in, I believe, on the net, WD9GET, who happened to be my flight medicine instructor, course director back in 2010. And so we've been communicating over the last week. So that was really nice and a surprise. If you have any questions, let me know, but I will be rounding. This is K4QY, back to the net.
Thank you, Andy, and welcome back to Image Radio. As I was telling Stephen in email, when he joined K3SZT, it's difficult to get the sunspot cycle aligned with the life cycle. So you're here at the right time, being with the sunspot cycles on the way up, and I'm glad you're making time and making it a family effort. As far as Keith, WD9GET, our member who works for NASA, when he checked in last week, for those of you that weren't on the net last week, he was checking in from Moscow. So he's a flight surgeon, and he was on temporary duty, although he's there quite often when he has astronauts that he's the flight physician for. I think 2 weeks ago we asked Keith what his currently normal assignments were in terms of astronauts. I think he said he was assigned for the 2 American astronauts that were going to be on the Artemis mission. So it's nice to have some variety here. And he's always been a very active Marco participant and part of our Facebook group as well. Wait, one. Again, this is AA4FL Net Control. Also Marco Secretary. For those of you that aren't aware of our Facebook group, we do have 2 Facebook groups. One's a public group, and the other one's a private group. I think one's under Ham's Care, HAM capital, HAMS capital CARE. Maybe that domain will be valuable someday if we have swine flu, because if you read Ham's Care, it's also could be Ham's Scare, depending upon how you look at that. We also have Healthcare Hams. I believe we have both of those domains tied up as well, but those are the names of those groups on Facebook. Wait, one. So we try to communicate in many different ways. Facebook is one. Our Google group, listserv, if you're not signed up for it, you can do so. You should be able to do that. I think there's a link direct on the website. If not, let me know. we have about 165 members that are on the Google group list. So not everyone's there, but what's important about it, we set it up in digest mode. You're not spammed. I mean, you may get 2 to 3 emails a week, usually important stuff. Things like the topic of the Grand Rounds on the air, CME topic of the week. It might be the topic for our net. I would encourage you to, if not signed up for the Google group or listserv, it's another important method of communication within Marco. Wait one. As they would say in the Rose Bowl, the great granddaddy of them all is the Grand Rounds on the Air, which is meeting at 11 in the morning Eastern Time, so 1600 UTC. Currently, will change to 1500 UTC when the time changes here. Daylight savings time goes back and forth. That's a medicine, a medical credit net, CME. Net CME Type 2 for those in states that can use the credits for your relicensure, and net control. Speaking of the granddaddy of them all, the Renaissance man himself. So that's Warren, and G4GUA, wonderful individual. He's not here on the digital notes. Warren's 96 and extremely well liked and really the face of Marco Drop One. Okay, enough from me. I'm going to go ahead next down the list. If Mark is here, WA32WA, go ahead and make your call. Okay, I knew Mark would be in and out. He's very busy. He also has the VMware Talk group. If you need that information, it should be in the Google group listserv, or you can email me directly and we'll get you the details how to log into the International Association Radio Amateur Radio Physicians Network, which I'm sure will be developing more over time and will be a home for our international members to meet and greet. Here on the QuadNet Array, they're gracious to give us an hour of time for our net, but realize that that is a very valuable commodity, and there are many nets that meet, and there are times where you can have a discussion here if you're on and you hear there's no net. But it's important that we save that resource, since it does translate to allow people, using many different digital voice net modes to come in, digital voice modes, to come in and talk. So the International Association Radio Physicians Network is another option, but it's DMR only. Drop one. Okay, Jerry, M4TSC, are you currently logged into the net here? Go ahead. Nothing heard. K2DED. Go ahead.
Good day to everyone. This is Steven from Hyde Park, New York. Kilo 2 Delta Echo Delta. It's the first time I'm actually checking in. I've been a Marco member for a little while now, but I finally was reminded that this is the time to get on. I seem to always be a few hours late and remember after everything's ended. But it's good to hear from everybody today, and I'm excited to listen and learn a few things, and just to be around some other intelligent people, intelligent amateur radio, other people. That's about it, and I'll let you get back to that. K2DD, next minute. Over.
QSO, Stephen, thank you for participating. I apologize for not realizing that was your first time on the net and giving you a chance to introduce yourself earlier. Of course, for the compliments. I'm trying myself to keep up. Those of us that are in our 60s and 70s and 80s, the world's changing in amateur radio. This is one of the ways, contemporary. one of our members in California stated to me that Marco was his way of keeping mentally active at age 80, and that he actually sent in for a 10-year membership. He feels it's so important to be intellectually engaged, and it's keeping him young. Thanks again, Stephen, for joining us. Mark, WA1EXA, go ahead and make your call.
Well, thank you very much. WA1EXA is here. Name's Mark. We're located on Cape Cod, and for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with the U.S. map that much, we're in the state of Massachusetts. If you look at the map, we're that arm that kind of sticks out in the North Atlantic. I'm just about in the middle of the arm, town of Yarmouth. I was able to pull up something, so I've been on ham radio since 55 years now, like 1965 or something like that. So it's been a long time, but just like everybody else, I went off to pharmacy school and then got married, had kids, and finally retired, and that's why I'm back on the radio. As far as the COVID here in Massachusetts, things are looking very well. And I think pretty much like the everything else, all the rest of the country. Let me see, I just had the information up here and it just went away. We've had a reduction in everything really. The vaccinations are going well. We're getting more vaccine. We expect to be even more. Okay, I'm back again. And once the new third vaccine starts coming around, let's see. We've got, as of the 25th, we've got a total of 547,000 since the beginning. New ones of 1,734 other cases, confirmed cases. Our testing has been so things are looking up. They've started to loosen up our restrictions a little bit, quite a bit really. There's been an increase that restaurants can back open up again to its full capacity, and that they're allowing some of the stadiums and arenas to start to open at 10% of their capacity. So they've been closed since the beginning of this whole thing. So life's looking a little better, and we hope it continues, but we're being careful and still using the masks and all that. So that's about the how it's going here in Massachusetts. So back to you, Jay, WA1EXA.
Thank you for the very nice presentation. Mark, one thing that came to memory in the context of what we've been talking about here today, because my family's, both parents were from Boston, and I certainly remember traveling in the Northeast between Boston and Philadelphia and making that drive. But to put things in perspective here, I was talking to a senior in South Florida who could not get the vaccine in Palm Beach County. He traveled to Panama City, which is in the panhandle of Florida, And this is where the context is, because traveling through Florida, Florida is a fairly long state. And if you travel north and then have to travel west, I mean, you can go 500-600 miles. And Panama City for him was a 500-mile plus 2 weekend trip to get to the next station. I didn't have any trouble. I drove to Dade County to get mine. Enough about me. Back to the net and WW9F, Jeff. Okay, WW9F, nothing heard. Um, it's the one disadvantage of the net being popular. We kind of, especially with me getting a little long-winded, I'm sorry it's making, not getting people a chance to make their presentations right after they said it, they, check in. KD4IZ, Jack, go ahead. Yeah, very good, Jay. A4SL, KD4IZ. Been playing with audio here, and I may have screwed some things up, but hopefully I'm not overdriving. It's been a bit odd. I'm a retired periodontist, academic, also microbiologist. The whole COVID thing has been near and dear to my heart, but I'm not going there. Outside of saying that the situation in Maryland is very similar to that in Massachusetts. Interestingly, those two states seem to track each other quite a bit. I just, even though apparently I was approved for it 3 or 4 weeks ago, I just got an appointment, so I'll be in Monday and get my first. I understand I'm in line for a Moderna version of the vaccine. My wife had the other one early in December because she's an infectious disease doc. And she was up to her neck in alligators at that time, so she was a priority vaccination at the hospital. Been a hand since 1978. I got my start as a Coast Guardsman before I had my license, mostly working in digital radio, the other kind of digital radio, i.e. teletype, and encryption. But I was also introduced to voice digital radio at the time. There were some bridge-to-bridge radios that were scrambled, and I had to learn about it then. That got me started, and when digital radio started creeping in, I started playing with it, and I've learned a lot. I'm an adept in D-Star, and am adequate with DMR. I don't particularly like DMR for a number of reasons. It's not amateur radio friendly at all. But it works, and so I do use it. I have it on the D-Star radio right now. Let's see, I was going to make another comment. Perfectly okay. I'm just not following myself this morning. I haven't had my second cup of coffee, and I'll leave it there, Jay. Back to you, and comment on the audio, please. Yes, Jack. The audio is not as crisp as it usually is. I don't know about overdriving. Just going by the sound here. I don't really have any way to technically analyze it. Thank you, Katie, for I was at AA4FL, and Jack's being modest. He's the one that suggested the QuadNet array to our group, and a godsend. So thank you very much, Jack, for that recommendation for the administrators here to allow us to use this for the net. It's been about 20 minutes since we've asked for late check-ins, so if there are any other late check-ins, you don't have to be a Markham member. If you happen to come upon the net and would like to participate, or you would just like to listen only and get in the login list, go ahead and make your call at this time direct to Net Control AA4FL. Okay, no additional check-ins heard. WJ8B, Andrew, go ahead.
Well, good morning, everybody on the net. Here in Ohio, it's warmed up quite a bit, and we've had rain on and off. Finally, the snow is nearly gone. I'll just talk briefly about the COVID stuff here in Ohio. You know, the curve was going down. It's kind of flattened off, and so they're still concerned about possible peaks in the future. So my CME provider, which I do online now, even though I'm retired internist, I still keep my license open. It is called EMWrap, so if there's emergency positions on here, they're aware of that source. Basically, the one fellow who runs that has been presented briefly that they are, apparently both Moderna and Pfizer are researching ways to change in the future their vaccines to cover the variants. And apparently pretty effective against most of them at this point. They also have some early data, which they didn't have early, and it is not final, that vaccinated people show minimal viral shedding, even if they do get it. And of course, the death rate in those individuals is extremely low. So that is certainly good news. I think the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is good to have it on there. Only 4 million doses of those initially. The good news about that part is apparently Moderna and Pfizer have already delivered much more vaccine than we thought 2 weeks ago. And I'll vouch for that as my fellow hams here locally on FM are actually getting appointments now, and we're having trouble. I had trouble getting it, but I get my second dose a week from Wednesday. Yeah, maybe off there briefly, so let me break for time. Ham radio-wise, I was first licensed in 1967. As a teenager, I was about 14 years old then, and was in the radio for a couple of years as a novice, and enjoyed it, but cars and college and all that got in the way. I didn't get back in until 86. Since 86, I've been active, both I was on HF from 86 till 1990, and then off from 1990 until 2 years ago. But I've been active on FM in digital modes ever since. Since 2015, I've been in digital modes. I have all 3 modes available. I'm talking on a DB stick at the present time, going through the QuadNet IPSC2 DMR server. I frequently do use DMR. I use Fusion as well, but we're using that today because the DB stick works on all 3. And I noticed a lot of our users are using DMR, so a lot of times the sound sounds a little bit better if you're all on the same mode. So, been on digital quite a lot. Of course, I speak with Jack on another net on Wednesday night, and fairly knowledgeable about it as well. And I encourage everybody to at least be knowledgeable about it. It really has made a difference. I think it's the perfect place for a net like Marco. So back to you, Jay. Tony, I see we got that much time left, so we'll give it right back to you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate the input. It's important input. And we do value your participation. I know that you've been active on digital nets for quite a while, so having you come on board and joining Marco, very much appreciated. N5 RTF. Chip, go ahead.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is N5 RTF. It's springtime in New Orleans. It's in the mid-70s. The doors are open. The air smells good. I think winter may finally be over down here. I got interested in electronics probably around age 10. Started taking things apart and then eventually learned how to put them back together and build new things, and got into audio, and then finally got a ham license about 1968, but didn't really do anything with it. I kept working with audio systems, and then caught the first wave of personal computing, and rode that all the way through college and most of medical school. Got back into ham radio in the late 90s, made it in time for that solar peak, which was a lot of fun on 10 meters. And then met the Marco crew through Bob Courier, as I put into the little editorial that we did in the ether. But it's been a fun ride, and I still like the technology. I would have to say that's probably the thing that's most attractive to me. Wait one. So I like to learn new things, and my next project, since I've done D-Star and DMR, I want to try to access uh, the QuadNet through Yaesu System Fusion, and I have an FT3DR. Been watching a few YouTube videos, but I'd be very interested if somebody has already done this, maybe could save me some work. Is there anybody on the net that has used a Yaesu handy talkie to access QuadNet N5RTF?
WJB.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I have two Fusion handheld and one Fusion base, and there's actually three routes to the QuadNet for Fusion radios, and they were on the main channel here. They are heard. Each one of them works, and it depends on what hotspots you're using. But I'll mention Pi-Star because that's usually the most prevalent one. You have to enable System Fusion, and it's best not to have more than two digital modes enabled at any one time, because then you run into very significant slowdown of your hotspot functionality, and has delays and so forth. But as long as there's two or less, you generally will work. And then you have to go to the drop-down list in the Fusion area and pick out the QuadNet. And let me break. It'll take me a minute to explain this. It's under either XLX, that's X-ray Lima X-ray 307, and you can select that, and that will connect to the QuadNet. You can also find it on a different type of server called FCS, that's Fox Charlie Sierra, and it would be FCS 310, and it'll have in parentheses 80, and that's the one for the QuadNet array. They also have a Fusion WiresX room as well that you can connect to. That's a little more intermittent. I believe that's 48058, but I'm not 100% sure of that. So, okay, well, I'll give it back to you there from WJB.
WJ8B and 5RTF. Andrew, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll probably experiment on that through the week and maybe try to check in next week with one of my Yaesu radios. Um, I'd like to be able to do it, through whatever I have on hand, and I do have a Pi-Star, so that's very applicable for this particular setup. So that's about all I had to say. N5RTF clear. Back to Jay.
Thank you very much, Chip. For those of you that don't know Chip, being a member of Marco for many, many years, he is certainly ingrained in our roots and was instrumental in the Grand Rounds on the Air and its evolution to its current status. And one of his professors at medical school was the originator of the Grand Rounds. So that's in the February issue of the Ether. If you'd like to read this story, you can get that online on our website if you're listening, marco-ltd.org. If you're listening and not aware of the Medical Image Radio Council, those are open newsletters, and I think you'll be very impressed with the information within. VE7 BSP, Richard, go ahead. This is VE7 BSP. Good morning to you one and all on that. Just a bit of an update on vaccines here in Canada. This week, you may have heard that the AstraZeneca vaccine was approved for use in Canada. And all of our vaccines now, Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca, are all two-dose formats. There is a lot of discussion going on around what is the time or usable timeline between the first dose and the second dose, with particular focus around Pfizer and Moderna products. Great, Glenn. At the moment, most provinces have suggested that instead of the 21 and 28 days, respectively, for Pfizer and Moderna, that it can be stretched out to the around 42 days between the two doses. That was really important when the supply was somewhat limited. This week we started getting more than double the inventory from Pfizer that we were used to experiencing. So we're starting to get much more vaccine for the purpose of finishing up all of our healthcare workers, long-term care residents, and workers, and then moving into the general public. Break one. Generally now across Canada, we're starting to do final preparations for vaccination of the general public. The AstraZeneca vaccine we envision will be provided by public health and community pharmacies. I know in BC that community pharmacies already vaccinate over 60% of the population for their annual flu vaccines and many other vaccines across the year. So we do know they're going to get used in the equation. And that'll come up mostly with the AstraZeneca vaccine because of logistics requirements. Rick, one. Yeah, Richard, are you done with your presentation, or did you have a little bit more to add? B7 BSP. Okay, perhaps Richard will be back. I saw someone else pop up here, KA8OTE. This is the Medical Image Radio Council digital voice nav, and of course we don't have to be a Marco member to participate. So we're having quite a lengthy discussion on the technical aspects of getting on the net and of COVID, being that we're a health-related group. So would you like to check in? This is AA for Net Control. Okay, are you back, Jeff, the WW9F? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm here, Jay. Were you able to copy anything that I said previously? Over.
I think we passed over you. I think at the time it didn't come through, Jeff. Over.
Okay, very well. Well, let me begin right now. My name is Jeff, WW9F. For those who don't know me, I am a retired healthcare regulatory and policy attorney. Like many others on the net, I got interested in radio and taking things apart and occasionally putting them back together as a teenager. And then life occurred,
and I have been able to return to the hobby, but not in earnest until my retirement several years ago. Drop one. Now I am active on the HF bands, digital on HF as well, and of getting onto the net this morning. I use DStar, an ICOM ID51, and an OpenSpot 2 hotspot. It's rock solid in performance and makes it very easy to get onto the net using one of the quad-net array connectors. So that's worked very well. Drop again. The weather in Chicago is in the 40s, so things are looking great here after a brutal February. And our COVID metrics are all declining. All the numbers are moving in the right direction, and everyone is delighted. We're hoping that the worst is behind us and we don't see another surge related to the COVID variants. Time will tell. The vaccination rate is really ramping up here. We're vaccinating a variety of sectors of the population, including a variety of essential workers and people even under 65 with pre-existing conditions. In about 2 weeks' time, the Chicago United Center, which is home to the Chicago basketball and hockey teams, will be used as a mass vaccination site. And so that will really increase the vaccination rate even more. So things are looking up here. Great to be on the net with you all today. WW9F, back to net.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We appreciate that, and I'm glad you were able to get in the roundtable here. We're getting, I guess, right at the top of the hour. We go for a few more minutes here. Past our time doesn't seem to be about that scheduled. Were there any other check-ins? Anyone that needs to check in, or anyone that would like to make comments in addition to comments that previously already made? Just go ahead and call Net Control. Let me know if you need more comments, and I'll give you more time. This is AA4FL. Okay, one additional request, Chip, M5RTF. There may be those of you that are new that don't have HF capabilities currently, and Chip does stream the audio from the Grand Rounds. So, Chip, would you like to tell a little bit about that in case they want to listen in on the Grand Rounds? Over. Go ahead.
Okay. We've been doing this off and on probably about 6 or 8 years. In its current form, I'm taking audio from any one of several SDR receivers, using the SDR, one of the SDR nets, find a receiver which is at exactly the right distance from our net control, and then taking that audio and using a converter named broadcast using this tool. Now, if you think of the acronym for that, you really don't want to Google it. But it works beautifully, and it's open source software. So take that and send that out to a streaming service that I subscribe to, which I pay $2 a month, and get a total of 100 simultaneous audio streams coming off of that service. And I use a domain that I own, which is marcoaudio.com. And you go to that page, and it'll have the links. It'll have how to access the information. Also, I've archived all of the nets for the past several years. So if there's one that you missed or didn't hear well, you can go back and listen to it again. Wait one. Now, the ideal way to do this, of course, would be to take audio off of the radio that the net control is using. But I've done that in my own station. It really is like running a one-man band. You're just handling too many things at one time. And if you're trying to give a presentation and answer questions at the same time, it's just plain too much to do. So the current system works pretty well. We are open to suggestions, for getting better audio access. But if you go back and listen to some of these, I think you'll find that the quality is pretty good. We get maybe 80% of the people that are checked in. We can hear them and hear their comments. And that's where we are at this point in time in 5RTF.
AA4FL, thank you, and thank you for everything you do, Chip. And we do appreciate you streaming. I know many times that's the only way to hear. I'm close to Warren. I can't hear him, so I hear him using the audio stream. Speaking of the net, tomorrow I am headed over to W4DFU at the University of Florida today to set up some new equipment. And tomorrow I'll be there as well. And I'm going to get on the net from that location. So for those of you that are active in the HF net, please let me know how we found we're 120 miles pretty much east-northeast of Warren, so the propagation should be the same. But we do have a kilowatt on top of a 200-story building there, so with a nice high-gain antenna, Pro 67, and I'd be curious to see if we get out similarly or we seem to be doing better. So listen for Whiskey 4 Delta Foxtrot United tomorrow on the Grand Rounds net. Are there any late check-ins? If so, direct your call to Net Control AA4FL.
WA1EXA, I have a question.
WA1EXA, go ahead.
Okay, just for Chip, really. I've been playing around with those remote receiving stations. I'm just wondering, which one do you use that seems to be the best for hearing all the participants? Since I'm sure you've been through all of them. There's a whole flock of them throughout the country. So I was just wondering which one you're using most of the time. Go ahead.
This is N5RTF. Yeah, the one that I use pretty consistently is the KiwiSDR.com. They have a list of receivers worldwide. The limitation on this is that most of the receivers can only handle 4 people at a time. There are other systems that can handle many more, but these are good quality. I know which receivers are exactly in the right position to hear Warren, and so I'm just comfortable using them. I also link in way ahead of time so that I'm not caught with no spots available when the net arrives. By the way, just I think y'all would probably be interested to know that all of that I described with the running the Kiwi SDR, the broadcasting tool, and monitoring is all done on a Raspberry Pi 3. So it doesn't take a lot of expense to do something like that. And and it's a lot of fun to try to play around with it. N5RTF.
WAVXA. Okay, thank you. I've been listening mainly on the North Utah one. I don't know what group it's in, but I've been listening to that one. It seems to be working well for me, but I was wondering if it was a better one. But okay, I will not try to take a spot on the Kiwi if there's only four. I will leave it to you. WAVXA. Back to you, Jay.
Okay, this is AA4FL, net control. Glad you'll both be able to discuss that here. And then, are there any other questions, any items for discussion before we call the net to close? If so, please go ahead and make your call. JP7FSO, I realize it's probably early in the morning, half past midnight. Shinya, do you want to make some comments about COVID in Japan? Go ahead. Okay, nothing heard. Hilton, thank you very much for doing the live stream on YouTube. For those of you that are listening, if you want to review the net, hear some of the information again, we should have that up and running here, and we'll put a link to it on the Marco Ltd website in the next few days as we get the video processed, the recording process. And we do appreciate you doing that for us, Hilton. And we hope you'll cultivate some new members. I know Chief N3IM, you mentioned, was there listening. Please, to all of you, no matter how you're hearing the net here today, spread the word about the presence of the net. Encourage friends that are amateur radio operators to come by and listen, because certainly if anyone in the healthcare fields, we'd love to have their participation both in Marco and on the net. But this is just one of the many venues for communication that we have as the Medical Laborers Radio Council. And the interests are growing with the additional members, because everybody brings their own perspective in amateur radio and in medicine. Wait one. And the organization benefits from each and every one of you. Everyone has their own perspective, but your own strengths, your own amateur radio efficiencies. We all do things differently. We're not a uniform group of amateur radio operators. There's many different modalities. Some of us do satellite, some of us do digital, et cetera, et cetera. So we all bring something to the table. There's no reason that anyone should feel left out or alienated in the Marco, because we're really trying to give a method for involvement for every single member and potential member in the amateur radio community, whether you're a paramedic, a nurse, pharmacist, any of the health-related professions. Wait one. And if you're not a health-related profession, as long as you have an interest in the health-related professions, you're welcome to be a Marco member. So look at the marco-ltd.org website, and we look forward to you joining. There's a join button there. Again, thank you to the QuadNet Array for allowing us the use of the technology, and again, a very valuable resource for all of us to be able to communicate no matter what the modality of digital voice that we use. That being said, a last call for comments before we call the net to a close and release the frequency back to the general amateur population, last chance, go ahead. AA4FL, net control.
GF0ACS.
PY2BBQ.
Okay, thank you. KF0ACS, Andy, go ahead. KF0ACS, Andy, I wasn't sure if you just wanted to check in or you had some comments. If you do, go ahead and make your call.
This is KF0ACS. What time did the net start?
1500 UTC, Andy.
Roger. Thank you.
PY2BBQ, open, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jay. This is PY2BBQ returning. I just wanted to give some background on the YouTube transmission. Let me open here the chat. The messages from Chin. The last one was the first one was, "Hello everybody, I'm still active cardiac surgeon, so I would like early QRT for tomorrow morning." You know, we have 2 hours difference, 12 hours difference from here in São Paulo. So I think it's 1 o'clock in the morning there. And then he finally said, "Let me tell you something. Japan now pushes immunization, but it goes to limited health workers so far. On March, more vaccines would be provided, then it may have it around the middle of March." That was his comments, and we had 30 playbacks of our transmission, and we had concurrent 14 people watching the live transmission. So I think, yes, we are in the right direction and letting it be accessible for the general population, not non-HAMS populations interested in healthcare and also in ham radio. Thank you, Jay. See you next week. KA4FL PY2BBQ.
That's very nice. I'm glad to hear that, Shen. Of course, 1 in the morning, we understand. So, Helsing, when we put the link up on our website, for those of you that are Facebook users, as Hilton mentioned, this will be appropriate for the general community to get the word out and what time of the day this occurs. I know that I'll post a link on my Facebook group to the video and give my friends the opportunity to listen to the future streams if they desire to. So, thank you everybody again for participating in the Marco, the Medical Image Radio Council Digital Voice Net. We're here every Saturday morning at 1500 UTC, and there's a group of us that are regulars, and then we welcome new participants all the time. Currently, we roundtable, so everyone check-ins gets a chance to make a presentation. We may have to extend our net out a little longer for that. That being said, being long-winded myself, I appreciate it, and we'll say 7-3 for this week. And we're going to call the net to a close now and return the Quadnet Array to general amateur radio use. Thank you, everybody, and thanks to the Quadnet Array. 7-3. AA4FL QRT.